Each night, restaurants create an experience to be remembered with every greeting, every dish, every bite. At Saratoga, we have been carefully crafting spring water for over 150 years, curating experiences that are timeless. Our iconic blue glass bottles have been served on the finest tables across the country. Each bottle being crafted with the same attention to detail and care that has been the Saratoga hallmark for generations. Paired with the most exquisite courses and menus, our still and sparkling water have a taste like no other. Adding to the experience you've created one bottle at a time. So, why Saratoga? With 150 years of heritage in the restaurant industry, we know how to make every meal exquisite. Open a bottle, take a sip, and savor the Saratoga experience.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Ed Ferguson, Chief Sustainability Officer over at Blue Triton Brands. For those of you who may not know who Blue Triton Brands is, you may know some of the products we make, but we're one of the leading water companies here in the U.S., actually the leading branded water company. Some of our brands specifically you just saw was Saratoga, but we also manufacture multiple other brands in the U.S. and Canada. So Poland Spring, Arrowhead, Pure Life, and otherwise. The other part of our business is home and office delivery. So we bring the 5-gallon reusable jugs for home and office delivery water coolers, where you fill up your water bottles during break or whenever you're getting ready to go out and about for the day. So that's a bit about me. It's a pleasure to meet you all today. I would like to welcome our esteemed guest as well. So today on this webinar, brought to you by Saratoga and Blue Triton Brands, I'm happy to introduce Jan Lucas, Vice President of Strategic Sourcing and Partnerships at Sage Hospitality. To you, Jan, for a quick introduction.
Thank you, Ed, so much. And first of all, thank you to you and Blue Triton with Saratoga for having me today. Yes, I'm really work with all of our properties on sourcing and work with companies like yourself with our partnership to be able to accomplish the goals that we have. So,
perfect. Thank you for that. So today we'd like to welcome you to the International Luxury Hotels Association's webinar on the power of premium. So inspiring sustainability through luxury branding. Today we'll explore a couple different topics under that headline, but ultimately it's the intersection of premium branding and sustainability. So both experiences and products. And ultimately the three areas we'll go into and talk through: how premium brands and luxury experiences can elevate customer loyalty, what it actually means to the people that make our businesses run, share strategies for exceeding their expectations and fostering sustainable behaviors beyond whenever they're at our locations or experiencing our products, but into their own personal lives. And then ultimately, how do we leverage our brands and the sustainable sourcing management of these experiences and products to surpass the needs of mindful customers? So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Really excited to jump in for today. I hope you find this riveting as much as we do, but we'll go ahead and get rolling. So to tee up the conversation, one of the bigger challenges that we face within this space is sustainability is not always a stated driver of purchase intent for premium products. However, what we observe is it's part of the subconscious decision-making of consumers for long-term sustainable behaviors and also brand preference and loyalty. So to sum it up, it's what got your customers or your guests to your location or to our products may not be what keeps them coming back. And we're going to talk through how sustainability can be a portion of attracting some customers, but ultimately driving some loyalty and sustainability behaviors long-term. So what does premium, what does luxury mean to a brand and an experiential application? So let's dive into that. So first question, Jan, I'll pass it to you after this, is what makes your brand, what makes it your experience premium or luxury? The table stakes, the elevated components of it. Just walk us through what that means to you and how you embed it into your properties and your brand.
Yes. So I agree in that really sustainability is not often a driver when guests are looking for premium products or luxury properties. However, Sage really is known for creating transformative experiences that really impact people and places. We lead the industry in delivering innovative and sustainable solutions in a culture, really where our associates thrive and sustainable within our communities in order to enrich both the guests so that they feel inspired and connected to our community and to our property. Really, this is our compass. This is really what is a purpose for Sage. Rather than really positioning sustainability as a standalone feature, it's really woven into the fabric of the property's identity. Sustainability should be perceived as an inherent quality, not just of the brand, but much like luxury, quality, innovation. For example, our partnership with you. When we really started looking at ESG and what our goals were, our first goal was to eliminate single-use plastic. And our goal with Sage is by the end of 2024, all of our properties will be eliminated of single-use plastic. So I was on this journey to really find somebody and a company that really had the same goals and passion and mission, vision around this. And I am fortunate to have found Blue Triton, and you really are the perfect partner for us, just because Saratoga is that elevated experience, not just with the look of the bottle, but the water, still and sparkling, is by far. It really is an elevated experience. So we also totally embrace the aluminum refillable bottles of Pure Life and Arrowhead. So it really does fit into our vision and mission, and able to be really mindful and deliver that luxury experience. So that's where we're at.
Oh, well, thank you for the plug. When we look at our brands, I'll talk mainly through Saratoga and the application here. But when we look at building a premium brand on our end, a lot of the components that you mentioned come into it. But really that first layer of what do people need to even consider looking at or experiencing our beautiful, wonderful waters. So with Saratoga being in the premium water category, one of the interesting pieces that came out of a piece of research from Bain are the three main drivers that kind of drive intent up front. And it's kind of the obvious: taste, flavor, and then the quality or pureness of the source. So it's kind of interesting that the source comes into it, because that's a big component of how we go above and beyond. Because the table stakes, almost anyone can do if you're mindful of the water you're using and the packaging, make it taste good, have a good flavor. But when it comes to how it's sourced, the packaging materials, the water itself, it's imperative. So when we look at how we go above and beyond, we center on those table stakes for consumers first and foremost. So we have a still product and we have a sparkling product, and they both have different applications. Saratoga itself is a low mineral water, so it has a slightly different profile than a lot of the other premium waters out there. But with still water, it's better for kind of those subtle flavors, like if you're eating like a sushi or something that's not really high impact flavor. And then if you're looking for something to complement a more robust Italian dish with a lot of spices, the sparkling water is better there. So the food pairing, the culinary experience is one of the ways that we go above and beyond with premium, of curating a water that doesn't impact too much of its own taste because of its low mineralization, and giving two different experiences with still and premium to complement whatever experience they're going through. In that case, probably a fine dining experience. But that's only the table stakes, taking the taste, the flavor, the quality of the source. When we look at the bigger story, to your point, it brings in the mission and vision. And I love that you talked about how important it is to be integrating the sustainable aspirations of your business as well as the sustainable activities. And for us, a lot of that goes to the spring story. Saratoga has been a brand for over 150 years. So part of our story is it's been sourced in the USA. It's been around a long time. The springs are stewarded to ensure that they're viable for the next 150 years. And it builds upon that legacy to bring about a story of kind of craft heritage, delivered initially in horse and buggy, modern day now in the cobalt blue glass, but integrating those components of from source, ensuring the water is stable, viable, the ecosystem's healthy, through the package, and then back again when we look at recycling and reuse. So those are some of the ways in which like we position our brand premium, starting with the table stakes and then building in the supply chain components that are really different from how maybe other water brands are sourced. So, with that being said, I'm curious, Jen, within the positioning of your brand, what are some of the table stakes that for being a luxury hotel? Like, what are some of the things that your customers are really focused on to get them in the door? And how does that tie into your sustainability strategy or aspirations?
Yeah, it's a great question and something we really work at and think about as we develop not just new hotels, but as we look at improving, what we have. I think consistent service, luxury comfort, um, prime locations, state-of-the-art design, culinary experiences really are all what makes Stage with our luxury properties. We have the Stage restaurant concept, which was which is an arm that was developed within Sage, and it really is a top quality cuisine that we deliver. But we have to be very cognizant of what does that mean. So we're focusing on, you talked about sourcing, and we really have to be responsible with our sourcing with that. And it's really, people talk about farm to table. Well, we're taking it even further and going table to farm in kind of what we're doing, because really being cognizant of our food waste and eliminating that from the landfill is very, very important to Sage, and something that we've really been working on. And another example is a table stake with our guests. I mean, everybody coffee, right? Everybody starts their day with coffee usually, or tea. And yes, exactly. So I've really been kind of on a hunt for what does that mean? How can we elevate that with sustainability in mind? And so La Colombe has come up with a 100% backyard biodegradable pod, an espresso and coffee pod that you can throw into the trash, and 36 weeks later it is gone. So there's no processing, there's no water that needs to be, there's no, somebody has to come pick it up and commercially, recycle it and things like that. So those are the type of things that it's an elevated product for that our guests have come to expect. But on the back end, we're trying to be very thoughtful about making sure that it's environmentally friendly. So that's kind of where we're at.
That's fascinating. It connects back to some of the themes you highlighted earlier of connectedness to community, responsible sourcing, a lot of the things that sometimes happen behind the scenes. So this is a good transition point for us to jump into our next topic. So now that we've introduced our brands and kind of talked about what makes them unique, let's jump into our guest experiences and how we actually bring those stories to people. And I do want to build it off with an insight that we gathered from a Mintel American Lifestyles report here in 2024. Ultimately, travelers like to see evolving businesses, and vacationers want more out of the top line mission of a branded travel company, such as like an airline, instead of getting from point A to B or a hotel providing shelter. What's the better holistic experience that's coming for those customers? And people, since they're looking for it, they'll reward those that give those elevated experiences. So again, just talking through, travelers are expecting evolving experiences that are above just the baseline. And when you talk about these things that are happening behind the scenes, how do you build those stories into your experiences? How do you bring it to people so it becomes the component of that elevated experience or showing that your business is evolving?
Yeah. So Sage is very much everything that we do, we want to create and focus on a place to go to and not through with our hotels and our restaurants. We don't want, and again, when you think about, usually people are going to a destination, is why they're in a hotel, whether it's for business or whether it's on a vacation or things like that. And so they have what they're going to do and that sort of thing. But we also want to create where they are pleasantly surprised when they walk in the door, and from the minute they walk in to the time that they leave, they are engaged in this place to go to, that we have created an experience, and whether it be from a storytelling, sustainability that we do through at different touch points that in the hotel, of everything from markets to a VIP guest or things like that. that they will experience that has a story behind it. With Procure Impact is another partner that we have, and they are a B2B where we purchase products that have been created, and the workers are people that have barriers to work or the underserved population, such as they've been homeless or veteran or have disabilities or things like that. And so there's a story behind that that we share with the customers. And it's everything from that to creating kind of a thoughtful hospitality and innovation, whether it's tech driven or wellness offerings. We have yoga by the pool or puppy yoga that they can do as part of their stay. Again, a place to go to and not through, or a culinary experience with the chef to find out that a lot of the herbs are grown in our garden, things like that. So along with the higher level, it's pretty common within the hotel industry that, put out this or whatever if you don't want housekeeping service. But we've taken it to the next level, and we have put, again, storytelling within the guest room, and we have partnered with a company called Hotels for Trees. And so when you opt out of housekeeping service for a day, we will plant a tree. So for every night that a guest opts out of housekeeping service, we then purchase a tree and plant it. So again, elevating it and incorporating sustainability that a guest can then feel good about. Well, this is why I'm not having housekeeping service tonight. I'm here for 5 days, so 5 trees will be planted in my name. It's a unique, but something that we feel is a very good partnership to be able to have. So that's.
Those are some fun examples of consumer delighters or guest delighters. Like when you talk about Procure Impact and Hotels for Trees, both of those wouldn't necessarily be expected. So when you talk about the experience, they're expecting kind of a great, relaxing place to stay, the shelter from the Mintel quote. I love that you're bringing these stories of social enablement through Procure Impact or the ecological benefits beyond just the water savings at the hotel and actually into proactive tree planting. So I love that that's been integrated as consumer delighters on your front. And we take a similar approach. I mean, one of the interesting things about our business is we're one of the largest we are the largest branded water company here in the US. So when we look at the different applications of where our products go, one of the biggest things that we have to be mindful of is the trade-offs between different products in our portfolio, and also make sure that the products can meet people where they are at. So Saratoga glass, for example, it's great for when you're sitting down, when you're relaxing, probably not something you want to take on a 10-mile run with you. So when we look at the applications and use cases for our products, we have to diversify our portfolio to meet those consumer needs. So we offer everything from the big 5-gallon jugs that are reusable that you can refill at home. We have Saratoga 28-ounce glass bottles that sit beautifully on your table. And then we also have more of the traditional PET bottles that you either have the sports cap on for active, or the half liter, or even the little baby 8 ounces that you bring in the car with your kids. So all the different walks of life is definitely one of the challenges we have to look at. And when we build our portfolio, it's how do we bring sustainability to each and every one of those brands? And that's where a lot of our collective programming or corporate sustainability goals intersect with many of these brands. So it's not necessarily unique to Saratoga, but it applies to many of our brands, but how the brands activate them are slightly different. So I'll use water as an example to take us through that. So we source a lot of water. What's unknown to people is about 2/3 of that we source ourselves. We source directly from nature, from springs or wells. And what that means is our biggest supplier is the planet. They are the ones, like, planet is providing the water and we are collecting it. So that means we have to steward that resource. A lot of these springs have been viable for over 100 years and we've been using them for brands. That doesn't happen on accident. When you have a supplier that doesn't have a voice like the planet, you have to monitor it. You have to proactively get in front of stewardship activities, making sure the ecosystem's stable so the rain can percolate into the ground and come out as groundwater that exits as spring. So when we look at our internal capabilities, we have a team of natural resource managers, a dedicated group of geologists, hydrogeologists, engineers that specifically overlook and manage the springs. And what they do is they'll look at groundwater levels, they'll track precipitation, they'll track weather forecasts. We acquire land around these springs to protect them from pollution and development. So protecting that natural system, because it is 2/3 of the water that we source, is imperative to our business. And we have this unique capability that most people look at a beverage company. It's like, why would you be involved with that? It's like, because it is what we do. That's how we've got our foot. And that's how Saratoga's been around for 150 years. So all of that's happening behind the scenes. And what we've done to bring stewardship to the forefront at a corporate front is setting our 100% replenishment goal in high priority regions, which means we're going to bring back as much water benefit to the communities in which we operate through things like conservation, so better groundwater, better water stability through bringing a wetland back, water savings. There's a whole bunch of things you can do to replenish water, but creating a community benefit around where we are in the same quantity of water that we withdraw. So when we look at that coming back to our brands, it comes into the sourcing story. Like, again, like we refer to it almost as enlightened self-interest of, if the springs aren't viable, our business isn't viable. Like, it's intrinsically, any business person would see the importance of the ecology and the environment. And when we bring it to our customers, it's talking about the long-term viability, bringing the people who are boots on the ground, hiking through the forest to go sample the spring water, make sure it's healthy, facilitating all the disclosures, and also providing information on what's actually in the water. So its quality, its purity. And we bring those stories, whether it's the individuals on our natural resources team that are talking through our brands and what they do, or the water quality reports we publish and talk through when we talk about culinary pairings, how a low mineral like water, like Saratoga, compares or complements other foods. So those are the big components that we build in around sustainability of water. Obviously, there's a lot more around packaging too, but in interest of not being too long-winded, I'll kind of truncate it there. But I love the concept that you highlighted of the procure impact and hotels for trees, of bringing that proactive societal and environmental benefit as customer delighters, because we see it as imperative to our business and our brands. So I did want to also transition. We can continue on this topic as well, but talk through, we're doing these proactive things. We have some programs that are evolving now. Again, like, customers like to see an evolving business. It bodes the question, what's next? What is the biggest challenge or obstacle or opportunity you're facing that ties back to either community environmental benefit that you anticipate seeing here in the near future?
Yeah, it's you bring up responsible sourcing. I think that is one of our biggest challenges, with balancing that with the demand for luxury, high quality guest experience, and really the need to reduce our environmental footprint and impact. And our industry, the hospitality industry, really is a resource intensive, involving significant energy and water and material usage. So really, it's going to be a constant moving forward, and not everybody is as forward thinking as Blue Triton, I think, and kind of ahead of the curve. Sage tries to stay ahead of that curve, as Blue Triton obviously does too. And taking responsibility for our environment, and how do we continually to elevate the guest experience. And I think that that's probably one of our biggest challenges right now, is making sure that we can give that guest experience, but reduce kind of our carbon footprint at the same time, because not all resources that we have are that cutting edge yet. Sage is very focused on energy efficiency, and we've everything from, making sure that we are doing ASHRAE level 2 audits and working with our engineering partners to make sure that we lower our EUI to make sure that it's going into the future, and we can help bring that energy usage down while being on the cutting edge and developing, more sustainable design and construction with our properties. And we have a lot of older hotels. So creating, taking those historic properties that we have and bringing them into, the future with water conservation, creating green roofs, and urban gardens, things like that. But also the back of the house of having low water use, recycling our water, finding ways to be able to implement that sort of thing. So it is a challenge because ESG always doesn't mean an easier bottom line. It's not really cost savings at times. Sometimes it is, but it's balancing that too. So those are kind of some of the challenges that we have.
Oh my gosh, balancing act. You're speaking my language. Balancing act, juggling, doing all of the above. What you mentioned a couple things that are coming up where you see as opportunities in the future. What gets you most excited when you look at those different frontiers you discussed? What gets you excited?
Yeah, I think so. I mentioned BioGreen earlier. What gets me excited are new companies that are helping us get to our goals. BioGreen takes our food waste, and it's a circular, it helps us with a circular food waste, where it takes it and partners then with companies in our community, and they take our food waste that they have now grounded and all of that and turns it into organic fertilizer. So, which is giving back to the community. So you are, when you go to Scotts Plus or whatever, you are purchasing this organic fertilizer that comes from our tables and our restaurants and our banquets, and has created this that you can use in your garden, that we also then use in our garden. So it's, people always, and for years have talked about farm to table, where now we are table to farm, like I mentioned. So those type of things really excite me, and that there are companies out there that are being very responsible and looking for ways to be socially responsible, environmentally friendly. We have stages, part of the USDA and EPA program to reduce food waste by 50% by the year 2030. So we are part of that. So again, even the government is involved in a good way, not mandating things yet, but that's coming too. So that doesn't excite me as much, but it is exciting I think that there are companies out there that are very innovative and very responsible and want to partner with us and want to elevate experiences that we have. So such as with Triton. I mean, it's just, I can't say enough what a perfect partnership it is. So.
Yeah, and we're not without our challenges. So when I'm looking forward into the future, one of the biggest challenges is the breadth of our company and the span of our portfolio. We have a lot of different materials we use. So you mentioned aluminum bottle, which we just launched this year. You mentioned the glass bottle with Saratoga. We also have our PET bottles. We have our HDPE, kind of milk carton or large scale multi-serve. And then we have those reusable 5-gallon jugs. So one of the biggest challenges we see is meeting customers where they're at leads to a diversity of portfolios, but a diversity of products and formats that they come in makes the back end challenging. How do you get those materials back? And from our standpoint, the best, and we've conducted a life cycle assessment on this as well to assess water footprint, carbon footprint, and human impact. Our reusables have by far the lowest environmental footprint, but it's only the 5-gallon jugs. So when we look at the other smaller formats that you can carry with you, it bodes the question of, well, what's next for those? Today, like, aluminum's the best collected for recycling. About 45 to 50% of containers are brought back for recycling. Then come glass and PET and HDPE. They're all at about 30%. So when you look at collection, that is a lot of material that is not put to a beneficial use after our product is consumed. And this is a shared challenge with really the broader CPG organization of everything from food products to beverages, et cetera. The question of we have to meet consumers where they're at, but we also have to make sure the products that we have a route to be beneficially used at the end of their life. So reused, recycled, repurposed for all the different options we put out. So when we look at challenges, and what really gets me excited are the levers or the high leverage points that really address not just one type of material, but all the different types of materials together. And some of the partnerships that we've garnered really build off some of the most successful cases in the US. So Oregon and Maine, for example, their collection rates, aluminum, glass, PET, similar containers, 85%. National average, again, if you remember, was about 30%. So there's a massive gap between the best and the worst, because if the average is 30, you know that there's some that are much worse. So when we look at the future, it's like, how do we emulate the systems that are working today to get material back to beneficial use, to decrease reliance on mining of alumina or silica for glass or petroleum for plastics? It's like, how do you alleviate the need for that and put these products to a better use so you're also not filling up the landfills? And that's where some of our reusable packaging is where I really get excited, but also the partnerships. And well, this is probably a good transition point for our next topic, but influencing people and providing them the outlets once they have something in their hand and they're done with it, having the system and the capability to really get them to participate, but then put that material to a positive use. So that's probably the biggest opportunity and challenge we see going forward. Maintaining spring water and the heritage story to us, that's imperative to our longevity, even back in the day when we were in ceramic bottles with Poland Spring to where we are today. But yeah, packaging is definitely one that we're looking at. I know you mentioned at the start of the call of wanting to eliminate single-use plastics. And it's like every organization has a slightly different take. And with that, there's different trade-offs. Well, if you trade from this material to that material, how does it affect collection and supply chain? And that's our responsibility to figure out. How do we bring you a product that is plastic-free, but then ultimately has the ability to meet what your guests are expecting? So that's probably our biggest challenge, is the breadth of consumer experiences we have to address and do it in a way that's responsible regardless of the type of the package it's in. So with that being said, I'll transition to our next topic. So now that we've covered some of the sustainability aspects of our brands, experiences, I'd like to transition to something relevant to the entire audience, everyone here on this ILHA webinar, to think about how to possibly activate this yourselves. And part of the premise here is, how can premium brands influence systems change for a better tomorrow? And then this is a responsibility every premium brand has. And to tee it up, I'll share an interesting statistic that we pulled. But according to a study from Condé Nast, we observed that brands experience on-premise and fine dining carries home with people. There's a 25% increase likelihood that they will buy that product in retail or grocery once they've experienced it at this luxury experience, so fine dining or on-premise. The reason I mention that is when we look at premium experiences, it's not just about the experience right then, it's what does that carry into the personal lives of our guests. They're seeking an elevated experience, something unusual, and when we bring a sustainability offering or behavior to them, they're more likely to take it back with them and integrate it into their lives. So using that kind of as a premise of, we have an opportunity to teach and better the world by changing the system and really the paradigm we operate within through our luxury brands. The question I wanted to tee up is, after a consumer experiences your brand or luxury properties, what would you hope changes in their life at home, and how would you bring that to life?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ed. And I think that you kind of touched on, change. Change is hard. Change in, some people do it very well, some people don't. And I think that we have a responsibility that, after a consumer experiences a stage hospitality hotel or restaurant, really our goal is that it will leave a lasting impression. that really goes beyond that immediate kind of enjoyment of the stay or meal or whatever. And our hope is really that they experience at least a positive change, whether it's just even a heightened awareness and appreciation for sustainability. I mean, that's kind of a first goal, I think, is for them to be aware that, oh wow, this has been an amazing experience, and they're doing it responsibly and sustainably. So bringing that to the forefront, to their mindset as they walk through life every day. Also, obviously brand loyalty and advocacy. I think, both of our brands probably appreciate that, that they will come back because of that part of it. And then an enhanced expectation of hospitality experiences is don't settle for less. If our customers are starting to expect sustainability and within our luxury premier brand, they're going to challenge us, and we're going to rise even further. We're going to step up our game all the time. But then also, I think what's really important, and part of the ESG piece of it, not just the environmental piece, is really a connection with local culture and community. That's really important to Sage, being a part of the community, and I hope that they take that back to wherever they came from. And again, bring that back into their lives, along with being aware of, you mentioned it before, is the sourcing. When they go to the grocery store, where they go to other restaurants, where they live, what can they do, and how can they ask those questions around the storytelling that we've told? So it's Sage really aims to create a transformative experience for our guests as we enrich their lives one experience at a time, all while enhancing the awareness of sustainability and deepening that connection to their local culture. So kind of.
I love how you almost tied it back to like the behavioral funnel of the awareness, the intent, and then the action. Awareness, that's a huge place to start, because when you're not an expert in what is behind the scenes at a luxury property, sometimes people don't even know what an elevatedly mindful, sustainable luxury experience is. So bringing that awareness to people, make them aware of the things they aren't, to raise the bar. I think that's a great example, and you've obviously illustrated it with a couple different examples of, we don't just like suggest that people pass on a room cleaning. We recognize that the expectation should be, because you did that, we as an organization saw some savings, we're going to do something proactive. It's not like laziness on our part of we don't want to do it, but it is now, because you did this, we'll match your behavior. So I think you start getting into, you're making them aware through some of these programs, but then you're also building the behavior and the intent by illustrating that because you did this, I'll do something good as well. Almost like the pay it forward type of concept. So I think you have plenty of examples of how you all have done that. From our perspective, one of the things that we really want to build into behavior is awareness around how you get your water. Again, it doesn't need to be in a single-use bottle every single time. And when we look at like our portfolio, one of the things that we're launching more aggressively is pairing our products, and we're calling them integrated products, where it's, you have the aluminum bottle or the glass bottle that's available in your room upon pickup. And that's filled with lovely Saratoga or Poland Spring or whatever region you're in. And then you pair that with a refill station of like, oh, well, your aluminum bottle's running a little low, like stop by the refill station to get some good tasting water again, but you don't need another package for it. And then the last piece that we're really beginning to pursue is a partnership on the back end, where there's going to be pickup services for those materials themselves. So you get the product up front with the package, you have options to refill it and reuse it while you're there. And then at the end, there's a responsible disposal that provides transparency back to the individual of this was your impact, and also transparency to a business like yours to give a sense of this is how much was collected. So when you integrate that whole kind of supply chain of experience of here's the product, here's a refill option to decrease the packaging waste you're going to generate, and then find a way to turn that waste into a beneficial use like recycling. So that's one of the ways that we're looking to build upon this open-mindedness that's inherent to premium experiences. You're experiencing something different as a consumer. Let's bring something different that is better and have them see that, oh, well, if I put this in a bin, they're going to put it into another product. It's not going to go to landfill. It's not going to be incinerated. And there's transparency the whole way. So building that trust of, if you do something, then we will reciprocate, is a big component that we're trying to build the behaviors of. Just pay it forward, be collaborative in the systems, and then create awareness of what actually goes on behind the scenes. So that's a big area that we focus on as well. And then when we look at other opportunities to leverage influence consumers and guests, bring the story of sourcing. I love how you leaned into that as well. But ultimately, water's a heavy product. You don't really want to be shipping it far distances. When we look at our model here in the US, we have regional spring waters typically for a reason, because it's from the region. In the Northeast, it's Poland Spring. Mid-Atlantic, it's Deer Park. Florida, it's Zephyr. You have the local water to complement the water that you're cooking products in. So there's some culinary overlap there, but it also is a supply chain change of pick local, be connected with the local community. Like, if you're going to buy a product, drive revenue to somebody working there. Drive ecological conservation to an area around where you are. So the connectedness to community for us is a big awareness platform too, to hopefully drive behaviors going forward. So I did want to pass it back to you if there's anything else you wanted to talk through around how you leverage your brands and the unique open-mindedness of consumers to bring about a better world. But I'll see if you have any closing thoughts. Otherwise, I'll wrap this up.
Yeah, I just, again, I think that our conversation has been very back and forth, and that we have a lot of similarities. And being local is very important, not just for being involved in the community, but our restaurants using local farms, and being that farm to table, table to farm, to help our communities also. Again, Sage's experience really at our properties is to encourage some of these practices. And for our customers to be aware of, as you mentioned, the recycling, the reuse of their aluminum bottle, their pure life, use the hydration stations that we have to reuse it. Don't just go get a new one, right? And so I just think by embedding the sustainability into every aspect of the guest experience and engaging the customers with that, it's going to play a significant role in the future and in fostering sustainable behavior. So it's an uphill climb, but I think that we are ready for the challenge, and with partners like you, I think that we're well on our way. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining. I think that's a great closing note of partnerships with organization and, more importantly, people who have similar ethos. When we look at our collective goals and our missions, you highlighted the numerous places of overlap. You can go so much further through partnership. So I love that you were able to join us today, and thank you so much for your perspective. With that, I'll close us out, and thank you everyone for joining the International Luxury Hotel Association webinar series. And cheers to a better tomorrow. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ed.